In a beautiful kingdom of ancient France, there was a merchant. He was good husband, dad and businessman. After his wife's death, he raised her only daughter by himself. His big mansion, wide beautiful garden were full of servants, but he felt all empty after his love's death. Now it was the time for marriage of her only daughter. He wanted daughter's happiness, her choice. All of France was eagerly waiting to see the marriage. Men of many kingdoms tried to marry her, but out of hundreds and thousands, three of them were success to stand. Merchant was so confused by the result, he was astonished to meet all three men. They all were matchless, businessman, prince, and a farmer. Daughter had to choose one, so he called her to meet them. After the very first glance, her first word was to marry all of them. Merchant could not think about that, so he began to refuse her daughter's wish. But daughter's word was straight. She can't do anything to her daughter. So he said to all three men that the one who brings most precious will marry his daughter. All three became little nervous, but they decided to complete the task. All three, separated from the border of the kingdom, began the search of precious with a promise of meeting at border. Businessman headed to Arab desert, prince headed to Himalaya, farmer headed to ocean in search of precious. In search of precious, businessman crosses deserts and oases. Eventually he met a guy with the mirror which can show anyone, stranger or loved one. In search of precious, rising through the high Himalayas, prince found beautiful garden full of plants named Sanjivni which would bring dead back. In search of precious, farmer travelled Pacific islands. He bought a small magical boat which would take anywhere, any place. All three gathered at the border began to look their future wife, but daughter of merchant was in coffin. They all took their horses and ran to mansion. They had to face some looters waiting for precious. Unity of three was undefeatable. They reached mansion. Immediately after reaching mansion, they gave Sanjivini to daughter, which made impossible a possible. She raised from coffin and she smiled to her father and said, "I will marry all of three." They all agreed and happily lived thereafter, went to far on their magical boat.